guys, how's it going? I am attorney Michael Ehline, and as you know, I am an attorney licensed in California and Texas. This is really the only time I have to go live today, so not expecting like the biggest audience, but hopefully I'll have some cool stuff to share with you guys that I can cut up into shorts throughout the week because I have a really busy week. I have a case that I'm preparing right now to possibly go to trial, and I want to make sure that everything's squared away. So I wanted to share this with you because it's really good news, but it's still, I have bated breath. We have the civil asset forfeiture at airports has been halted by the DOJ. And we're going to talk about why, but we're going to talk about why it's really kind of an empty victory. I'm going to get into the medieval deodand so you can sort of understand where this comes from. And I'm going to talk about, well, as you guys know, I'm an anti-federalist. So I'm going to talk about Hamilton, and I'm going to talk about what Jefferson thought of this practice of basically seizing property without any type of due process. And Jefferson, I'm a Jeffersonian myself, was a big advocate of due process. So I was watching Leto's Law. Hey, what's going on, Salt Shaker? Good seeing you. I was watching Leto's Law. And so I'm going to show you his video. It's only like 6 minutes. So you can kind of, get the rundown about what he's saying. I'm a big fan of his channel. I think the guy's pretty legit. And then I'm going to get more into the legal history, and I'm going to sort of talk about the disparities between like the Hamiltonian Federalist sort of belief and then the Jefferson belief. And I'm going to talk about where the medieval deodand comes from. And it really comes from the ancient kings, and it's and even like a papal bull type law. And it's the ability for the government basically to just steal your stuff. And I think what happened is the DOJ stopped the practice of stealing people's stuff at airports. And of course, what they do is they engage in equitable sharing, where somebody at the airport will like drop a dime on you because you have too much cash on you. They think you have too much cash on you. And then they'll turn it over to the DOJ. They'll say, hey, come over, take this guy's money. And they'll take your money without even arresting you. And they'll steal your money, steal your cash. And then your option now is to cut a deal with them and get pennies on the dollar back, or fight them and spend millions on lawyers, basically. I'm exaggerating, but you get what I'm saying. And then the person who reports you gets a kickback. So think about that. It's kind of like these people who can drop dimes on you at the IRS, and they can get like all this money from the IRS for dropping a dime on you. Same kind of crap. It reminds me of the Maoists, the communists, where they would have block captains, like the Soviet style block captains, where your neighbors are constantly spying on you and reporting on you if you do something that goes against the state or against whatever the greater good is, whatever the majority says, which totally flies in the face of a constitutional republic. Hey, right on. Overturned civil asset forfeiture laws, Salt Shaker. OTCAF. And guys, I know that it's been like a really busy week for a lot of people because it's Thanksgiving weekend coming up, and we got Christmas coming up. So I appreciate you guys supporting my channel big time. By the way, I want to share with you before we get into the show about the movie Gladiator. One of my favorite movies ever was the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe. And that was last night. I got to see the culmination of Gladiator and what happened to Russell Crowe's son. And man, the battle was so bitchin'. It kind of reminded me of the old James Bond movies, the way you have the action at the beginning, just like the original Gladiator. You have that action at the beginning, and then you get into it from there. Super, super cool movie. If you guys get a chance to see the Gladiator movie, go and check it out for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you the Leto's Law video that I watched that sort of kicks off a little introduction. And again, this is just the DOJ ending civil asset forfeitures at airports. It doesn't mean that civil asset forfeitures are going to be ended everywhere. So let's get into it.
Asset forfeiture, and how if law enforcement encounters you and you're carrying cash on you, they ask you why you've got so much cash on you. And then they say, well, we're going to take it from you because we're convinced that you're either about to commit a crime or you've already committed a crime. And this cash is evidence of that. And if you want your cash back, you got to sue us. And sometimes it costs more to sue than it's worth. And so they make a lot of money that way. And one of the strangest ways that this has evolved is people started reporting that they go to the airport to fly someplace. So you go through the whole gauntlet of the TSA and the kiosk to get your boarding pass. And you're walking down here and you're getting in line over here. And people are saying that they would actually be called to enter the plane. And as they're walking down the jetway to the plane, somebody would walk up
I
to them and say,
agree, Ryan
excuse me,
Labs.
I want to ask you some questions. And it'd be a federal agent interviewing people who are about to get on a plane. Normally, you're not being quizzed at that spot. So it seemed very, very strange that would happen in that spot.
Yeah.
But it turns out that if you're carrying cash, they pull people out of line,
Mm-hmm.
take their cash from them and say, sorry, too bad. And now a couple of these got caught on camera.
Mm-hmm. That's why.
And it turns out that if you see the footage, it looks really bad. So the Institute for Justice has gotten involved in this.
Yeah.
And they have a big announcement that they just made. The Department of Justice suspends controversial airport interdictions after viral footage showing DEA agents threatening and abusing
Ridiculous.
an innocent traveler. So the Department of Justice suspended the DEA's controversial practice of having agents intercept travelers, interrogate them, and insist on searching their bags in what the agents.
And again, this comes from the medieval deodand, right? This is like something from the king. This is something Thomas Jefferson surely would not have supported. But yet somehow or another, with the centralization of our government, they're right back at it again. Keep on listening because I'm going to go into the history of this. So stick around for the show. You're going to love this.
Agency called consensual encounters. So you're at the airport and someone walks up to you and flashes a badge and goes, can I talk to you? They're saying that you could say no. But everyone knows that you cooperate at the airport.
That's right.
You know better than to give anybody a hard time at the airport. That's been hammered into our heads ever since 9/11. Okay? You go to the airport, you're on your best behavior, you don't goof around, you don't joke around. Someone wants to talk, you talk to them. They ask you a question, you give them an answer. Okay? So the suspension comes on the heels of an Office of the Inspector General report, also issued recently, that criticizes the practice and refers to shocking footage of one traveler's experience, which the Institute for Justice released on YouTube back in July. Today's OIG report confirms what we've been saying for years about predatory DEA practices at airports and the allegations in our nationwide class action lawsuit against the DEA over these abuses. That's a senior attorney at the IJ, Dan Albin, speaking. We welcome DOJ's suspension of the program as a first step, but policy directives can be changed at any time under this or future administrations.
That's
we
the
call
problem.
on Congress to pass the FAIR Act to permanently reform federal civil forfeiture laws, to end the profit incentive, close the equitable sharing loophole, and to guarantee every property owner receives their day in court by ending so-called administrative forfeitures. And what they're talking about there are a couple of things they do, but equitable sharing was the way that they pulled a little maneuver on you. So a local police department seizes the money from you and hands it over to the feds and goes, hey, guys, we took this money from somebody we think is a drug dealer or something. And then the feds take the money and go, oh, okay, thank you. And oh, by the way, since you gave us some, we'll give you some back.
Yeah, we'll give you a kickback.
So when you go to sue the police who took it from you, they go, we haven't got it anymore. We gave it to the feds. Sue them.
Uh-huh.
And so normally, if you were just to go sue the people who took your money, they'd have to defend themselves. And a small town might not want to do that. But with equitable sharing, they can give it to the feds, who then give some money back. And now you got to go sue the feds. So
you following what I'm saying? So like, let's say it's a little podunk airport. You want to raise money for your local PD or whatever. So the local PD comes in, they steal your money. They call it they call it asset forfeiture, but we're going to get into the history behind it. All right, the medieval deodand. They steal your money, and they know that you could sue them. And a guy like me could easily take on a small city and beat them, just a one-man operation by myself. But if they give it to the feds, well, they know that I'm going to have to fight the entire federal government. And so now I have to have, 5 or 6 more lawyers and a bankroll to be able to do that. And so that's basically what he's saying is they give it over to the feds, and then you have to sue the feds. It's totally unfair. It is, to me, America has become just like Joe Stalin with this kind of stuff. The centralization of power always leads to the same thing, a tyrannical government. And this is a prime example what Steve is talking about. Let's keep going.
It's another incentive for these small town police departments to do this, and big town ones as well. The IG is currently suing the DEA and the TSA over their airport seizure and forfeiture practices. The lawsuit from 3 travelers and a class of people who had their property seized is currently in discovery. And keep in mind that TSA is designed supposedly to keep airplanes safe by screening people and their bags that get on board airplanes, right? But if the TSA spots someone carrying cash, they will then call the police. And the police will show up and go, hey, we understand you're carrying a lot of cash on you.
We need that money. Take it.
Who told you that? Oh, the TSA, when they went through your bags. See, they're going through your bags for safety purposes. But when they find money, they tip us off. In addition to lawsuits to protect travelers who had their property seized, IJ advocates for legislation that would end the profit incentive that fuels unconstitutional searches. In the recent Congress, the House...
Well, that's IJ is the Institute for Justice. That's an organization that I support. Several of my friends have had their assets seized in a similar way. One of them is a Marine. And because I'm a jarhead, I got into this and I started looking at the history of it. And basically it's King George back in the United States. It's a royalist law that should have never been allowed to evolve into this country. It's absolutely disgusting. Keep on listening to what Steve's got to say.
House Judiciary Committee unanimously approved legislation to reform federal civil forfeiture. That's H.R. 1525, the Fifth Amendment Integrity Restoration Act, or FAIR.
Due process.
Among many reforms in the bill, the FAIR Act would send all forfeiture funds to the U.S. Treasury General Fund rather than funds controlled directly by law enforcement agencies. And we talked about that also. The law enforcement agencies that seize a lot of money.
So these law enforcement agencies are basically stealing your money and using this stupid old law, this Deodand law from the king, basically, or the Pope, to steal your money, and then they send it to the feds, and then the feds give them a percentage of it back. And then they use that to give themselves bonuses, pay raises, improve the police department, buy a new SUV. It's all just about, it's a racket, basically. It is absolutely a racket. As far as I'm concerned, it should be covered under RICO statutes. But it's not, because the federal government can just immune itself from the law. Keep on watching this, and then I'm going to get into the history and what Thomas Jefferson would have said about this law, and then what Hamilton would have said about this law, what Hamilton said about it, and give you like a historical perspective of how tyrannical this law is.
Often have so much money they don't know what to do with it. So they go out and they buy armored vehicles, and they buy themselves decorative badges, and they buy themselves Super Bowl tickets and daiquiri makers, popcorn machines. And these are all things they've actually bought with money seized from people.
That's right. He's right.
So this is another great example of something that's come about, at least partially, due to pressure from the Institute for Justice. And I've told you this before, and I'll say it again. I encourage you to support them. The Institute for Justice advances a rule of law under which individuals can control their destinies as free and responsible members of society. IJ litigates to secure economic liberty, educational choice, private property rights, freedom of speech, and other vital individual liberties, and to restore constitutional limits on the power of government. So the IJ is a nonprofit organization.
Right.
They do great work, but they survive entirely on the support of people who donate to them. I'm going to put their website in the description box below this video.
Support these
I urge
guys,
you to click on it, support them if you can. If you're just curious about what they do, click on the website, take a look at it, and bookmark it. And just look at what they do. They've got a newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. See what they do. You'll be amazed at the kinds of stories that are out there that they're getting involved in. And remind yourself that most of the cases they're handling, nobody would handle otherwise.
That's right.
And the only reason they're doing it is because they get support from people who go, hey, I like the work these guys are doing, and gals. I will support that. So this right here is, I would say, largely the result of pressure from the Institute for Justice, as well as other people who stood up and said, hey, this is wrong. So,
as well as people like Steve and me who are constantly, talking about this on YouTube and on our websites. But it's a big deal. I'd like it if you guys would support the Institute for Justice. We can't do all this on our own. We're taking on the great Leviathan, the federal government here.
This is from a press release from the IJ. Department of Justice suspends controversial airport interdictions after viral footage showing DEA agents threatening and abusing an innocent traveler. Questions or comments, put it below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching.
So you kind of got the idea. So really quickly, I'm just going to try to, by the way, thanks Brick and everybody for showing up on a Sunday. This was the only time that I had to go live. Unfortunately, I just noticed that Chili's got a show going. So, make sure to support Chili's channel. I'm not here looking for a bunch of views or likes. I'm looking to get this information out because it's really important. And this is something that is near and dear to me, and it's based upon the medieval deodand law. So I'm going to talk to you about where civil asset forfeiture laws come from so you guys will understand. So many people are just putting out like reaction videos, and lawyers in particular, but not explaining to you the legal underpinnings of why this despotism is happening to us. And so civil asset forfeiture is the evolutionary outcome of the medieval deodand. And look, I may be saying it wrong. It may be deodand. I'm saying deodand, D-E-O-D-A-N-D. All right. And in medieval England, the deodand was a legal concept that referred to an object or an animal, okay, an object or an animal that had caused the death of a human being. And under this doctrine, the object itself was considered to be guilty of the death, and therefore it was forfeited. Following me so far? It was an object or an animal that had caused the death of someone, and as such, it could be forfeited. Okay, this is where civil asset forfeiture law comes from, and nobody, I haven't seen any videos about this, so I want you guys to understand how cool this is that you're getting an opportunity to learn the history behind it. Because I believe you can't know where you're going unless you know where you came from. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. And by the way, J&A Moore, I appreciate you joining me. Brick, Salt Shaker, Rhine Labs, Life Under the Microscope. Totally love Life Under the Microscope's been supporting me big time over at Twitter, sharing my videos and stuff. I really appreciate it, brother. Hoping we can do some stuff together, maybe do a project together to where we can help educate people about their unalienable rights and their natural rights, because that's why Team MPE exists. We're here to try to help educate people so they understand their rights and they understand how to reclaim them when they've been stolen. So basically, the term deodand comes from a Latin phrase called deodandum. Deodandum, D-E-O space D-A-N-D-U-M, deodandum. And that means to be given to God. Okay, so that's how you know that the state, the centralized government, thinks that it's God. Okay, so some key points about deodandum. Originally, the purpose of deodandum was both punitive and religious. Okay, punitive and religious. Okay, the object was to be sold, and the proceeds would be used for charitable purposes, ostensibly to atone for the death. I mean, this is a religious law that's been passed down, and now it's civil asset forfeiture. I'm hoping that Steve Lados watches this too, because I really love his channel, and I hope that he's cool with me sharing the beginning of his show. I shared his link. So, Steve, I shared your link because I'm trying to get my channel to watch your stuff, because I really like your channel, Steve. I think you're doing God's work, and not God's work in the deodandum way. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys like Steve. I think Steve's got a great channel. Now, application. Deodands apply to a wide range of items. If, for instance, a person was killed by a falling tree, all right, the tree could be declared a deodand and sold. Okay, that's what this is about, guys. I want you to see how crazy the law has expanded. It just blows my mind. So, similarly, if someone drowned in a pond, the pond might be declared a deodand. More commonly, animals like horses or carts involved in accidents that resulted in human deaths were then subject to being declared deodands. They can be taken away and sold. That's where deodand comes from. I hope you guys are blown away by this. I mean, this is like some serious research. I hope you guys like it. This is like cutting edge stuff. Nobody's talking about this on YouTube. So please share my channel and give me a bunch of double taps on my vertical feed so we can get some likes and shares. The process. When a death occurred, an inquest would determine if the object or animal was directly responsible. So they actually had an inquest, at least, which we don't have now with civil asset forfeiture, which is crazy to me. So if so, the coroner would assess the value of the deodand, which was then surrendered to the crown, right? In this case, the DOJ would surrender it to the federal government. This assessment would be quite subjective, however, and often served as an additional tax or fine on the community or the property owner. That's how it ended up. And that's what it is when they steal your money from you at the airport. Evolution, though, over time, the practice of deodands became more about revenue for the crown. Sound familiar? Like revenue for your local police department who seizes your assets, sends them over to the DOJ, and then gets part of it back so they can buy cruisers, Super Bowl tickets, which is actually something they've done. Unbelievable to me. By the 13th century, the financial aspect became prominent, as it always does, leading to criticism and eventually its decline in the 13th century. But it's not declining here in our country. Abolishment. The practice was actually abolished in England in 1846 by the Deodans Act, which was part of a broader reform in property and criminal law. The need for deodans diminished as other forms of legal compensation, like civil lawsuits, became more prevalent. Okay, but in our country, remember, we broke off in 1776, right? So we never had a Deodans Act to abolish this practice, and so it got strengthened through, I think, admiralty law in this country, to where it's still carried on. And in my opinion, it's totally unconstitutional. It's an aberration, and the fact that any court would uphold it tells you how bad it is to ever, how bad it is. I mean, that we have judges and justices who would actually support something like this, how ridiculous it is. And this is the history of the Deodans. All right. So hopefully you guys learned something today. Give me a bunch of ones if you learned something today about civil asset forfeiture law. Now, I'm going to get into in a minute the history of civil asset forfeiture at common law under American common law. But I know I get a lot of young guys on my channel and they like watching reaction videos. So I'm going to share with you in plain sight, PLANE, drug agents searching passengers for cash at the airport, and why the DOJ has stopped doing this. But this doesn't really help us, guys. All it does is give the appearance of propriety. But the practice is still going on every day when you get pulled over by a local cop or a local police department. This is a really bad thing. And I'm hoping I can expose this and that you guys will support my channel so I can go out and help people along with the Institute for Justice to stop these practices. Let's go.
Hiding in plain sight at the busiest airport in the world. Drug agents walk the concourses, blending in by dressing just like passengers. This is a DEA task force officer scanning passengers boarding a flight for Los Angeles. There's another. How do we know who they are? Because we use the same tactics to investigate them after several passengers said they were targeted for warrantless searches at the gate or on the jet bridge.
I'm a random search, guys. So he says. So those white folks, and I'm the random search.
Hollywood actor John Ellie was stopped by Clayton County officers while boarding a flight to L.A.
Were you here in Atlanta?
Yep.
How long were you here?
Doesn't matter. Why are you asking me all these silly questions? Check my bag, do what you gotta do so I can get out of here, please.
The narcotics officers didn't find anything, but kept asking questions of the Emmy-winning actor.
When did you purchase your ticket?
Don't worry about it, man. Just supposed to call, check my bag so I can get out of here, please.
Said the right thing. Good job.
Thank you.
That whole thing is just so humiliating. Like, who thinks this is a proper way to treat?
Right. So they're trying to treat this as a consensual encounter. So this is how they get you guys. When the police pull you over and you start talking to them, anything you say can and will be used against you. They call it a consensual encounter. This is why I tell all you guys, stop talking to police, and certainly don't mouth off to them or be a belligerent asshole, because no lawyer is ever going to want to take your case, because they know right away that a jury will never award your money. And even if you win your case, you're probably going to win it on appeal, because you might have a judge like Ann Zimmerman who's going to say, this guy's belligerent, lock him up, right? So unless you have a nice bankroll and can afford an appellate attorney, it's not really a valuable case. But let's keep going, guys, because I want you to understand what a consensual encounter is too, so you know how to deal with it when the case moves forward.
Anyone.
Tabari Sturdivant is an Atlanta-based film director who was also flying to L.A. when agents stopped him at the departure gate.
All my life, I pride myself on being an upstanding citizen, and you still do this to me. I'm clean, like I'll comply, but like, why me?
Drug agents searched Tabari's bags in the boarding area in front of other passengers,
warrants,
some
no
recording on
consent.
their phones.
I'm thinking more about, making this plain that I'm even thinking about my rights at this point.
Is that part of their strategy, you think?
I think it's 100%.
Records show that DEA and local police rarely find any drugs or make arrests during what they call cold consent searches at the gate.
Okay, so honestly, guys, let me ask you a question. Do you know of anybody stupid enough to bring drugs into an airport? Do you guys know that about 99% of all currency, Federal Reserve notes, has traces of drugs, including cocaine on it? Do you guys know that? Okay. Hopefully you know that. Let's keep going.
I see the finish line to get on the plane. Everybody knows that feeling of getting, right at the door or getting on the jetway when you get blindsided. I'm like, man, I got to get on this flight. And they were like, if you let us do our job, I'll make sure you get on your flight. So I'm like, do what you got to do.
They didn't find anything suspicious in Tabari's bag. So what were they looking for?
He just is like,
Money.
are you
Cold
high?
hard cash.
Have you smoked? Do you have any drugs in this bag? Do you have any money?
No, they probably said it more like this. Hey, yo, you got any chronic? You know what I'm saying? Right? Because they just automatically assume if you're black that you got weed, right? I mean, that's been my experience having done a lot of criminal defense work. Oh, hey, what's going on, BZ? Good seeing you, bro. And it looks to me like they probably ran his bag through an X-ray machine, and they found the cash that way. Obviously, there was no search dog. Let's keep going.
The DEA and other drug agents are seizing millions of dollars from departing passengers at Hartsfield-Jackson, mostly from flights to LA, even though it's completely legal to travel domestically with any amount of cash.
Yep.
We found dozens of cases in Atlanta's federal court, USA v. some amount of currency. That's right. In most cases, they don't arrest the passenger. They arrest their money.
And that's the medieval Deodan, right? They seized the property, and they actually have a lawsuit involving the property. So it'll say like United States versus $10,000 in seized assets. That's what it is. They don't even have your name. And oftentimes they don't even give you a receipt. I mean, it's unbelievable how these guys just obviate and ignore the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because they say, well, it was passed on through a common law, and therefore it's lawful. And these judges have upheld it.
Even when no drugs are found. The probable cause statements show that the cash is administratively forfeited as drug money if the passenger can't prove on the spot that their money is innocent.
You're either going to sign a consent form saying that you're allowing us to search them, okay, or I'm going to detain them, run my dog on it, and get a search warrant.
Feel free to search the bag, sir.
Are you willing to sign a consent form?
Yes, I will sign a consent form. Feel free to search.
I would never give a cop permission. And look, here's what you got to know. If he runs a dog on it, the they're trained to smell for the scent of money. Okay. So because money always has traces of drugs on it, they'll always hit on the money. Always. Look, I know plenty of police officers who are canine cops, retired and active duty. Dude, they're going to sniff on it. They're going to pick up drugs. The 99% of currency has traces of drugs on it. It's a total scam. Okay, let's keep going.
It's my bags.
In this 2015 Department of Justice report, the Office of Inspector General told the DEA it should stop using a troubling technique, causing passengers to believe a voluntary search is a mandatory TSA secondary inspection. 8 years later, we found DEA agents at Atlanta's airport using similar methods.
We're no different than TSA, man. People just like give us a little more hard time than they do TSA.
He just approached me and he asked me for my ID. He didn't state who he was. He just asked me for ID.
Ridiculous.
And I thought he was a Delta agent. He had airport credentials on. And so I gave it to him immediately. I thought this was how I was going to get on the plane or something. I don't know.
The drug agents may be in plain clothes, but they're not undercover. This is Sergeant David Fikes. He and his canine Bane are still all over the Brookhaven Police Facebook page. Since Fikes was assigned to the DEA task force at the airport last year, records show he's been involved in seizing more than $1 million in cash. His police department has received a 9% cut of that money, more than $100,000, even though
Okay, so hear that? So basically he's like a salesman, right? He gets a commission for everything he steals from we the people. People like this would have been tarred and feathered back at the founding of our country. All right. The Deodan should have been ended in 1776. It was actually ended in Britain in the 1800s, but it still carried on here in our country, where they illegally seize your cash with no probable cause, nothing. Just some scumbag cop right there who thinks that he's doing the right thing, and he's just basically getting a bunch of money kicked back to his department.
Brookhaven PD is nowhere near the airport.
If we have the ability to walk up to, say, Officer Fikes or to any one of these agents in the airport, what would you like us to ask them?
How would you feel if somebody did this to you? How would you feel?
We found Fikes and other plainclothes DEA task force officers by going to departure gates for LA flights. They stopped passengers at the boarding door, asking to see their documents before going through their carry-on bags. The searches we watched
Asking.
came up empty. The drug agents cased 3 different gates in Concourse.
So let me ask you guys a question. How many of you guys have been to the airport and been approached by an official and presume that they have the right to search your bag? Remember, our government allowed those 911 hijackers into our country. And then when they did harm to us, what happened? Laws were passed to restrict our freedoms. Our government has allowed over 20 million illegal aliens into our country, many of them with criminal backgrounds. What's going to happen? They're going to pass laws to restrict your freedom after they did this to you. Who benefits? Well, let's watch. Let's see who benefits from tightened and restricted airport security. Certainly, it's not we the people.
Blending in with passengers while we observed from a standoff distance. But it didn't take long before the task force officers spotted our phone and camera. Once they sat down, it was time for a cold consent interview of our own.
Hey there, I'm with the news. You're Sergeant Fikes, aren't you? I'm with the Atlanta News First.
Okay.
How many innocent people do you have to search before you find what you're looking for?
Sir, I've got nothing to say to you.
Another officer was behind me, out of sight, over my shoulder, giving hand signals to Fikes as I asked him questions.
What about Tabari Sturdivant? Do you remember him?
He has a beer with his big
No?
pot belly, right?
Took everything out your bag and put it all around in front of everybody and made you look like a criminal. Like, how would you feel, Officer Fikes?
Why do people have to prove themselves innocent? You got nothing to say to these people?
He's gotten over $100,000 for his police department by stealing money from people like you and I. All right, so here's what we're going to do really quick, guys. I'm going to just give you a really quick understanding of civil asset forfeiture law and American common law and how this has happened to us. And look, just because it stopped at the airport, it's just temporary. They're going to wait for things to blow over because there's too much money in it for all these scumbag police departments and police captains and police chiefs. But the bottom line is civil asset forfeiture has its roots in early legal systems, tracing back to practices like the DOJ, which we discussed earlier. In medieval England, the concept allowed the crown to seize property or objects that were deemed responsible for causing a death. And over time, this evolved into a revenue source rather than strictly like a charitable obligation. Originally, it was more of a charitable obligation, right? But then it became just about money, like everything devolves into in this world, right? If you've ever been on a date with a girl, right? Nowadays, they want you to pay for get their nails done before they'll even go on a date with you, right? So the practice was expanded in England through maritime and customs law, and that's where we get it from. American common law has inherited that through our maritime and customs law, particularly the Navigations Acts of the 17th century. And by the way, again, the DOJ Act in England abolished this practice, but yet why is America with an American common law system and a due process clause? Why do we still have this? I mean, why isn't anybody stopping this is what I want to know. So it allowed for seizure of ships and cargo involved in smuggling or piracy, right? Without necessarily charging the ship's owner with a crime. They could just take a ship. Gee, how convenient, right? For the king. And this was necessary because the ship owner might not be present during the act, making direct prosecution difficult. So they just take a ship. Now, in the American colonies, civil forfeiture was used by the British Crown through writs of assistance, right? Writs of assistance, look it up, which were broad search warrants allowing officials to enter homes and seize goods suspected of being smuggled or untaxed. And we see that with the IRS and the modern central government. I mean, they're no different, right? They're worse. This practice contributed to colonial resentment. Hello. That's why the DOJ has temporarily stopped this practice at airports because they're getting too much heat, in my opinion. So this practice contributed to colonial resentment. And it was one of the grievances listed in the Declaration of Independence. Are you guys kidding me? I mean, give me a break, right? Because of lack of due process. So the founders' perspectives on civil asset forfeiture were that, you know, Alexander Hamilton of the First Congress established measures to mitigate the harshness of forfeiture, but he didn't end it, which I think he should have. Give me a bunch of ones if you think Hamilton should have ended it. Introducing executive branch authority to return seize property in cases where there was no fraudulent intent. No fraudulent intent, you had to give it back. This indicates an early recognition of the need for checks against the misuse of forfeiture power. Constitutional concerns, the founders embedded protections in the U.S. Constitution, like the Fourth Amendment, which implicitly critiques the broad unchecked powers of forfeiture, is practiced by the British. So it just blows me away that this is even happening. The Fifth Amendment also protects against deprivation of property without due process, suggesting a constitutional framework designed to limit such practices. Now, while the founders did not outright ban civil forfeiture, it can be implied by what they did with the Articles of Confederation and the Bill of Rights that they wanted to end it. So it blows me away that we still have it. So after the next video, we're going to get into what Thomas Jefferson had to say about it. But this next video is an example of just direct theft by airport employees. Now imagine if they could just not go to jail for stealing and just get a kickback from the federal government. Check this out. Look what happens. So our government basically allows people into our country that do us harm, and then they pass laws to strip away our freedoms. And now we're forced to have these scumbag customs agents and Homeland Security agents who rifle through our stuff. And here's an exact outcome of what happens. By the way, there's no sound on this. Just watch this guy. So he's digging through luggage. Oh, look, there's some cash in here. Oh, there's some jewelry. Oh, let me, oh, hey, I'll just put this in my pocket. Oh, yeah, I'll just steal this. Yeah, oh, yeah, no problem. Oh, here, let me help you, yo. Yeah, let me help you get some of that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to get some of that too. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we're all good. Yeah, so, yeah, I wonder what kind of background check these two homies had to go through, right? Just stealing people's stuff at random. Keep watching, guys. These are your government officials, your government agents, rifling through people's stuff, stealing their stuff. Like it's no big deal. No big deal, right? Just steal it. Take it. Make you take your shoes off. Make you go through that radiation machine. Lifetime exposure. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Put your kids through that radiation machine. Oh, it's perfectly safe. Yeah, no problem. Here, let me take your stuff out of your bag while you're not looking. So this is an example of theft that got caught. Now imagine what they're not getting caught doing, right? Just imagine what they're not. Look, and he's like brazen about it. This dude just like brazen about stealing stuff. I mean, the ultimate thieves, right? Your own government. You're paying taxes and being treated like second-class citizens by these TSA agents every time you go to the airport. Give me a bunch of ones if you know what I'm talking about. Treated like dog shit by these TSA agents who act like they're gods and literally are gods. You look at them sideways and they can kick you off your flight. This is an example, a prime example of what happens. Illegal theft. How much of that theft do you think doesn't get caught? How much? Tell me what you think. Now, this next video I'm going to show you guys is one that I caught off of ABC 7. Let's get into it.
Common. An attorney explains that it allows local governments to take people's property without convicting them or even charging them with a crime.
Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda is here with the chilling details of what happened to that California couple and if they ever got their property back. Carlos?
Well, it's called civil asset forfeiture. And again, it allows law enforcement to take people's property. Now, in these cases, people say it was happening out of state and they were never charged with a crime, but it became a legal nightmare to fight to get the money back.
Millions of packages move across the country every single day. Many go through this FedEx facility in Indianapolis, and that's where they can get taken, not by thieves, but by local law enforcement.
I'm just totally stunned that this can happen in America.
Henry Cheng is a jewelry wholesaler. He doesn't want to be identified because he says robbers often target him to steal his merchandise. In this case, he sold items to a client in Virginia, and the client sent him $42,000 in a FedEx package. It was stopped in Indianapolis.
But the next thing I know is the police and the prosecutor is forfeiting my money, saying that based on solely on a suspicion. They didn't even name the crime that I've committed, because I know I have not committed any crime.
He called police and the prosecutor's office in Indianapolis and says they wouldn't give him a reason why the money was taken. He showed authorities.
Because they don't have to. They're relying on a medieval statute called deodand, a medieval deodand law that was used by the Pope and the King of England to basically punish property that had engaged in the wrongful killing or the wrongful death of a human being. And now just the mere fact that you have cash, it's been construed to be able to allow that because it evolved under maritime law into ship seizure, where the captain wasn't present, where they could seize the ship that might be trying to avoid paying a tax. That's what this is really all about. It's always about taxes, isn't it? Let's keep going.
The receipt for the sale and was told it didn't matter.
You can get your money back, but you got to
Senior
go to
Ryan
court.
Labs.
A public interest law firm called the Institute for Justice took up the case and filed a lawsuit.
Civil forfeiture really is one of the greatest threats to property rights in the nation today. It lets governments across the nation take people's cash, their cars, their homes, without ever convicting them of a crime, without charging them with a crime.
The Indianapolis FedEx hub is the second largest in the United States, and attorneys claim law enforcement in Indiana is using that to profit because it can keep a large part of that money. In the affidavit for probable cause, it states one of the reasons the parcel was deemed suspicious and pulled for inspection is simply because it was shipped to California.
So they describe California as a quote, a source state for drugs.
The affidavit in this case adds several other reasons for the package being suspicious. The seams were secured with tape.
Really quick, let's talk about California. So California, right? California has become a sanctuary state. They immediately let illegal aliens come in. They register them to vote at the DMV, right? Drug cartels flood across the border because the government allows it to happen. They give them sanctuary, and then they pass laws and make declarations. Oh, California is a source state for drugs after they allowed illegals and drug traffickers to come in without repercussions. This is another example of why we need to form parallel systems and stop participating in systems that violate our rights. I mean, look at the Amish. That's why the Biden administration went after the Amish, because they do not want people participating in parallel systems where they're free from this type of corruption and theft, legalized theft. Let's keep going.
It was dropped off at a FedEx shipping center, and it also states that it contained $100 bills, $50 bills, and $20 bills. It says those denominations are consistent with illegal activities.
They simply say that there's been, quote, a violation of a criminal statute. They don't tell you what criminal statute. They don't tell you what violation. And really, it is just a numbers game.
A numbers game that adds up to a lot of money. Judge says this prosecutor's office in Marion County, Indiana, has stopped more than 130 packages over the last 2 years, seizing about $2.5 million.
Oftentimes, to travel to Indiana, if you live in California, to try to litigate a civil forfeiture action. It may very well cost more to hire a lawyer to defend yourself than the amount of money at stake.
Now, after several lawsuits and questions from us and others, Cheng is getting back his money.
The state came back and said, okay, well, now that we know the full story, we're willing to give the money back.
Cheng's attorney says the government always knew the full story. Nothing changed in the last few months. He says the evidence was always there.
For people who are willing to lawyer up and spend months, filing stuff with court, and incurring all this time and resources trying to defend their properties, sometimes the government just gives up. But of course, a lot of people can't afford to do that. A lot of people don't have the good fortune to have free lawyers. And for those people, the government tends not to be quite as ready to give people's property back.
And attorneys say the return of the money will not end this case. They countersued with a class action lawsuit over the constitutionality of the process used to seize and forfeit assets.
All right, so you kind of got a little bit of an
idea
understanding.
can change your life.
That's the American dream right
what
there.
The heck is going on here? Trying to.
I want to be on a team with you.
Shark Tank, new Fridays
What
on
the heck,
ABC
man?
and stream
One
on
second here.
Hulu.
A nice day ahead of us. We might have some leftover lingering.
All right. All right, guys. So I'm still not like totally 1000% technologically proficient with these YouTube shows, but Blue 5. So Blue 5 has some questions. Do you know why these cops, government doesn't stop stealing money? When one steals, especially big money, it doesn't last. It is never enough because they spend it quickly. They lose it. They get in debt. Hey, man, Blue 5, I'm with you, homie. And I'm just telling you, as a relatively successful lawyer and human being, I was doing the same thing. I'd make a bunch of money, make a big score, and then start, buying expensive office furniture, buying the expensive car, trying to spend more on advertising. instead of saving, thinking it's just going to never end. And it always ends. And it always ends in destruction, and destruction of your life, destruction of family and friends. So I'm with you, Blue 5. I think we need to be more frugal, and the government needs to leave us alone, man. Leave us alone. Give me a bunch of ones if you think less government means more freedom. Now, Bo Ghibli, good seeing you, brother. It's been a long time, man. It's like a race to see who among us is the most corrupt in America. I agree with you, dude. 1000%. And Rhine Labs, you look like a new person here, but Rhine Labs gave me a bunch of ones. So give me a bunch of ones back for Rhine Labs, guys. And Kevin Brionarski, I think it's Russian, right? Kevin, you might be Polish, but Brionarski sounds very Russian, And Ayn Rand, I believe she was Russian too. So hopefully you're an Ayn Rander. And libertarian mindset, which is what the Team MPE mostly is about. Let's get into Thomas Jefferson's direct views on civil asset forfeiture, because Thomas Jefferson is my favorite founding father out of all of them. And he never had, an extensively documented belief system or view on this. But in my opinion, the fact that he believed in natural law, and the fact that our revolution was based to a large degree on these writs that the king was issuing to seize our property, that this is something that somehow escaped and fell through the cracks. This is something that we should not have deodan. We should not have civil asset forfeiture in this country. It's totally un-American. It goes against everything our founding fathers stood for. So because of the philosophy of limited government, I believe that Jefferson would have believed that this type of governmental interference would have made him wary of these types of practices, because it infringes upon property rights without a criminal conviction. I mean, think about that. It's crazy. And then support for due process. Jefferson was a proponent of due process, the practice of civil forfeiture where the property can be seized without an accompanying criminal charge or conviction goes against the principle of due process. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. And then the criticism, of course, of tactics. Jefferson criticized the British use of writs of assistance, which were essentially a form of civil forfeiture, for their role in allowing warrantless searches and seizures. I just kind of talked about that a minute ago. The criticism aligns with the broader disapproval of practices that could be used oppressively by the government. And then the influence on legal reforms. While not directly commenting on civil forfeiture, Jefferson's actions in reducing the severity of criminal penalties and his focus on ensuring justice and fairness in legal proceedings suggests that he would have been cautious about laws that could lead to abuses like those associated with civil forfeitures. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. So given these points, I think it's reasonable to infer that Jefferson would have likely been skeptical of and opposed to the practice of civil asset forfeiture, because it could lead to abuses of power. And we see that happening. That we saw that scumbag cop at the airport, seizing people's property, and then he gets a kickback for his department. I'm sure he's probably one of the highest paid cops on that force, because he's basically like a salesman getting a commission, right? A commission or a bonus for stealing your property. Oh, I'll just have my dog sniff on your bag. Well, you know the dog's going to sniff on cash, because they're trained to smell cash, and all cash pretty much has drug residue on it. It's just so like low class. It's so un-American that people like this would have been tarred and feathered at the time of our revolution. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Now, Jefferson's general stance on government power, individual rights, and due process would have likely led him to advocate for reforms or limitations on such practices to ensure they did not contravene the principles that he held dear, that I hold dear. However, there are cases where forfeiture might be justified to enforce laws like customs violations modernly, and I don't think that he foresaw the type of government overreach that we have today, where our government basically allows criminals to come into our country and do us harm, and then they pass laws, right? They pass laws to protect us from the harm that they created, like these warrantless searches, the FISA, like these where like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page with their insurance policies can go to one of their leftist judge buddies and get warrants and make up a false Russia narrative or whatever and get their buddies at CNN, Communist News Network, and PMSNBC to spread that disinformation all over the internet, right? And that's what's been going on, guys. And it's not going to stop until people like the guys at Team MPE start bonding together and stopping it. And we can see already the DOJ stopped doing this at the airports for now, because they got too much heat on them. And so we're going to show one more video about the kind of heat that they're getting, and which I think is just unbelievable. What's going, like, that they've been allowed to get away with this crap, guys. It's just unbelievable to me. It's blowing my mind. But this is a pretty good video. I hope you guys have liked the show so far. This is probably one of the best videos that I've seen on the subject of airline passengers being searched and what scumbags these government enforcement agencies are hiring. It makes me sick.
And I'm Andy Perotti. Joining me now is Chief Investigative Reporter Brendan Keefe. Keefe, how are you doing?
That's good to see you, Andy.
So your investigation tonight, when you told me about it, my jaw dropped. I can't believe what you found. Tell us more.
Yeah, so we did this investigation last year called In Plain Sight. It was about the DEA doing these sort of surprise searches at the airport gate, just as you're getting on the plane after you scanned your boarding pass. They ask to see in your bag. And if you don't give them consent, they keep turning the screws, saying you're going to miss your flight if you don't give consent. And most people simply give consent.
Intimidation tactics.
We told people in that initial investigation, hey, you have a right to say, am I being detained? If the answer is no, you can walk away. If you say, am I free to go? And if they say yes, then, they have to have probable.
How many people know that? How many people know that you can say, if I'm not being detained, I'm leaving?
Cause or reasonable suspicion to detain you. They have to have probable cause or a warrant or your consent to search your bag. And so what happens if someone says no and sticks to their guns? We now know because someone saw our investigation, and here's the result.
Set your bag down, and then you can walk on the plane. You can do that.
No, I'm not. You're not with the, what do you call it? I've seen these like videos on YouTube.
Yeah, that's why. Because of people like us.
And the first distinct thing I remember was pulling my phone.
I can do whatever I want.
I am the government.
What a disgrace.
He actually said, I am the government?
Yeah, he says, I am the government. And he was very assertive about it.
I'm the government.
This is Officer Nick Nimskern with the Montgomery, Ohio Police Department working the Cincinnati airport as part of a plainclothes DEA task force, stopping David, a New York-bound passenger.
So this guy's local PD, right? And everybody, anytime he sees his cash, his department gets a percentage of it back from the federal government. Okay. That's the problem here. It's basically a money laundering cash grab. I mean, honestly, guys, I don't understand why we're not already trying to have a violent overthrow of the government. Our founding fathers would have started a revolution for much less than what these asshole cops are doing at the airport right now.
After he and his bag had already cleared TSA screening.
Jeez Louise. Why are you so angry? Okay.
I'm not angry. I just want my rights to be respected. That's all.
Well, I just told you can walk on, but you can set your bag down. And we'll just have a dog.
Or else you're gonna. Am I being detained right now?
Not you, but your
bag's being detained.
Not your bag. I told you like
I'm gonna walk.
You can't do that.
Am I being detained?
Robert,
but am I free to go?
Was your heart pounding? Were you nervous?
I just got
were
motivated
you
right
confident in your position?
Oh, I was unbelievably nervous. In fact, the first thing I did was on the plane was go back to my phone and just see, is this really happening? And did I remember this correctly?
You mentioned seeing a YouTube video. That's our investigation you saw, right?
Yeah, that was your investigation.
Atlanta News First Investigates tracked plainclothes drug agents through the Atlanta airport, watching and recording them searching passengers at boarding gates, looking for cash to seize. In court filings, the government called these cold consent encounters.
How many innocent people do you have to search before you find what you're looking for?
I've got nothing to say to you. I distinctly remembered a couple of pieces that stood out. I think one of them was asking the question, am I free to go? The second thing that I really remember is that I was free to walk away if so.
We do have a completely full flight this afternoon.
Once on board, David checked our story again on his phone.
I actually saw the Investigate TV news article pop up too. And I remember thinking, well, at least I did this right. You have the right to walk away if they're not detaining you.
Agent Nimskern followed him on the plane and mistakenly grabbed another passenger's bag.
Oh, that's my. Hey, that's yours. Where's your bag at?
I don't consent to search, sir.
You don't have to consent. Where's your backpack at?
Do you
Where is
believe
it?
this
On your
guy?
receipt?
It got put away, but I don't consent to being searched.
I don't care
So
what your
this is-
consent stuff. You want to watch the dog?
Yes,
You wanna
please.
Sit in your seat.
I would like to watch
Well,
the
then
dog.
come out.
It was definitely embarrassing, humiliating. I'm sure everybody's wondering, is this guy a terrorist? Is he bringing bombs on board?
I'm not trying to be a jerk. I just don't like being searched.
You're not trying to be a jerk.
You should be
I just
ashamed
You
of
might
I don't know
be
who
the biggest
you are.
jerk I've ever met out here, honestly.
That's fair, dude.
The airport is not a constitution-free zone. You retain
Amen.
your Fourth Amendment rights when you're in the airport.
Kirby Thomas West is an attorney with the DC-based Institute for Justice, now representing David.
Any of us, and even a constitutional lawyer, knowing all my rights, there's no guarantees that you're going to be safe from this kind of search or seizure.
One thing he said is, I don't need your consent. Is that true?
The only way that law enforcement can conduct a search without your consent is if
Warrant.
there's probable cause of a crime.
Am I under suspicion of a crime right now? Do you have probable cause?
So we have a lot of money and drugs going out of every
It's not
airport
probable cause.
to New York.
He's a warrant.
It's an influx of it.
Am I being suspected of a crime? I just want this to be
I
recorded.
don't know.
Do you have reasonable
I
suspicion?
don't know.
Do you have probable cause? And he says, I don't know.
Do you have probable cause for a
I have
search?
probable cause for a dog to walk up to smell your bag, yes.
The canine at first walks right by David's bag without stopping. Then,
And I saw him gesture back to my bag,
Yep.
and I remember him just doing something with his fingers.
He's trying to get him to
Upon looking
hit
at the
on it.
video again, you can hear him making that kissy sound.
You see that? You got it recorded. Don't edit that part out of the video either. So he sat on your bag.
Okay.
Is there money, drugs, or weapons in your bag? You did all this just for what? This is
Just,
what we do. Let me tell you, we've been doing
I
this
don't-
for a long,
you
long
don't-
time.
you don't-
Years and years and years.
I
Longer
understand
than probably
that.
you've
I
been alive.
respect you, sir.
We're within our rights. Or I
No, they're
wouldn't do what I
not.
did.
They're
Is my
not.
flight going to be...
Okay, that's your point.
All right. I just did some research on this when I was on the plane, but
Well, Google's great. I'm telling you, if I were you, I'd call your lawyer and see what he wants you to do.
What a dick.
I know you're annoyed.
What a complete
And I'm annoyed
scumbag.
too that you caused such a scene for something so
No,
silly.
he
I don't
caused
think
the
standing
scene.
up for your
A
rights
scumbag
is silly.
cop.
You actually disobeyed me.
Disobeyed
Disrespected
you. What a
And also, it's weird that he puts this whole scene on me.
We wouldn't do this and be doing it across the country if it wasn't legal.
We wouldn't be doing this all over the country if it wasn't legal.
Well, first, this isn't legal, and second, that they do this all over the country, but it was extremely validating to hear it from the horse's mouth.
You walked off the plane. Fact check, bro.
basically, do you want a receipt for the bag?
You want a receipt for the
All right, you guys can consent to search it.
Before he searches my bag, the officer says, I'm sure that there's nothing in your bag anyways.
I'm sure there's nothing in here at this point.
At the end of the day, there was nothing illegal in your bag at all.
No, he searched my bag very thoroughly, and nothing was found.
This is just going to prove that your dog has been trained by you guys to
Bingo.
signal whenever you
You
need
see
to
it.
signal.
Could be smelling something residual from something else. I don't know. I'm not a dog.
Bullshit.
Dog.
Was there ever an apology? Did they
No,
say
of
we're
course not.
sorry? What? How did they end the encounter?
They laughed at me.
They laughed at you.
Yeah, they laughed at me. I asked him, so what do I do with my flight? And he said, that's your own problem now.
Brendan, this is wild. This guy didn't have anything, didn't have any money in the bag.
Yeah, it was actually one of the first things you asked me when you saw my story is, how much.
So how many of you guys are like, have your blood boiling right now? I'm a lawyer, and I've read in the Declaration of Independence that says it's the right and the duty of the people to throw off an oppressive government. And I'm trying to understand why this has been allowed to continue in this country. Does anybody have any explanations for me? Like, you saw what a scumbag that cop was. Like, he's laughing. They trained these dogs like by doing little noises to get them to hit on stuff. I mean, do you trust any of your local police after seeing that? It's a local cop who's working in cahoots with the federal government to steal your money, right? And get part of it back. And then you have to sue the federal government to get your money. And you could end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees to try and get your money back. I mean, look, this comes from the ancient medieval English law of deodand, and it should be totally illegal. The problem is the government is so cash strapped, and these local law enforcement agencies are so cash strapped, and they're so money hungry that they found this way to get extra cash from we the people. And because we put so much heat on them with our YouTube videos and whatnot, the DOJ has ended the practice, at least temporarily, of interdicting money at airports. But you know it's going to happen again, guys. You know it's going to happen again. I showed you a couple videos earlier about how the TSA, people who were put there because our government allowed terrorists into our country, and the response by our government was to pass laws to restrict our rights of travel. Remember this. Anytime our government does things to destroy our freedoms, they pass laws to take away more of them. And that's basically exactly what's been going on. We're going to keep watching this video, but I am like totally incensed. When I see videos like this, it makes me want to throw up. Our founding fathers would have tarred and feathered public servants for doing less than this. And it blows me away that people are so okay with this kind of stuff. It just makes me sick to my stomach. Rose Winter, good seeing you. Thank you for joining the channel. Jay Bird, loving having all these people here. Blue 5, thanks for coming. Life Under the Microscope, one of my newest favorite members. Let me see here. Life Under. Let me see. Where is Life Under? Life Under the Microscope. Let me see. Where are you? Everybody give me a bunch of ones for Life Under the Microscope. Life Under the Microscope just earned his wrench today. So Life Under the Microscope, with great power comes great responsibility. You now have a wrench, but please understand that people with wrenches never time out fellow wrench holders. So you now have earned your patch, brother. You are in. You are in. You're a part of Team MPE. Thanks for staying loyal to my channel. Let's go ahead and finish up watching the rest of this video, and I'll try to butt in when I think it's appropriate.
How much money did they find? There was no money in his bag. He did this to stand up for his rights. And I asked him, like, why did you do this? And if you had nothing to hide, and in fact, many of the comments we received on AtlantaNewsFirst.com and on our YouTube channel were, you know, hey, if you have nothing to hide, why not just let them see in your bag? Because this is the United States of America.
Amen.
The Fourth Amendment says you are to be free from these unwarranted searches of your person and your effects. So he is right that your things are just like your person. There is no difference even inside an airport. They have to have your consent, or they have to have probable cause or a warrant signed by the judge. They didn't have any of those things, and they searched his bag anyway.
So tell me the difference, like if I'm going through security and TSA wants to look inside my bag versus like a DEA agent. Tell me the difference there.
Yeah, I didn't know the difference before we started investigating this. I figured, well, in the airport, the rules are different. We, in order to fly, it's not a right, it's a privilege to fly. And in order to fly post 9/11, we all consent to have our bags searched by the government, the TSA, after all, our government agents. They're not law enforcement, though. A lot of people don't realize they're wearing a uniform, they're wearing a badge. They don't have any kind of arrest rights. They're not sworn police or federal agent. You know, they can't enforce the law. They're administrative government employees, and that search is administrative rather than
administrative search.
Even if they find evidence of a crime when doing a TSA search, they have to call in the police to then take the next step. Now, they can't unsee what they see in the X-ray machine. But if the police approach you or the DEA approaches you in the airport and they say, we want to see in your bag, that falls under the Fourth Amendment. Not to turn this into a constitutional law class, but the Fourth Amendment means they do have to ask for your consent. They do need probable cause. They do need a warrant if you say, I don't want you to see in the bag. Now, can you let them see in your bag if you want to? Absolutely, if you think it's going to help. If they find $5,000 or more in your bag, even if you can account for it on the spot, they are going to seize that money. We have never seen a case where they found more than $5,000. In all of my research, I never saw a case where they're like, oh, cash, and someone is able to pull up on their phone on the spot, which is what these agents want you to do. Show your bank account where you withdrew it. Show your meeting with the car seller you're going to buy the car from on the other end of the deal. They still seize the money every single time and then claim it's drug money just because you're flying to a major city. Guess what? Every major city is a drug hub. New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles. If you're flying into any of those cities, particularly on a last minute ticket, they think that's enough evidence to take your money with no evidence of drugs found.
That's right.
I'm so glad that you interviewed him, and I'm so glad the Institute for Justice connected you two. Tell me why he didn't want to be identified. Most of the stories you've done in this series, that the people were seen like on camera. This guy decided to hide his face. Tell me about that.
Yeah, and normally, look, we always want to, be upfront with the viewer of why are we concealing someone's identity. We would prefer not to. And we never promise an outcome, we promise a process. So I said, here's what we're going to do, because he wanted to keep everything but his first name out of it. It's his real first name, David. But his company, and he's basically a high-level executive, his company does business with the government. And they don't want it to affect their government contracts. This was less about fear from the DEA, because the DEA already knows who he is.
So last year, you profiled two lawmakers on opposing parties that were interested in filing and moving forward with some legislation to address this. Any idea where that stands?
Yeah, the bill is still live. Unfortunately, they have until the end of this year because, as you know, Congress goes in 2-year, or the House of Representatives goes in 2-year sessions. So, this particular Congress, if you will, expires at the end of the year when the new Congress is sworn in January. All the bills that didn't make it to the floor of the House of Representatives are going to be.
I was just scrolling trying to find the date on this video. How many of you guys think this is an old video and Congress isn't going to do shit? Let's keep watching.
Reset. Now, this particular bill has been filed time and time again to fix this civil asset forfeiture problem, to put a larger burden on the government if they want to seize your money. Right now, that bill is live. It looked really good, like it was going to make it. It was sent to the House floor for a full vote, but it's up to the Speaker of the House to actually bring it to a vote.
Let me educate my audience, okay? Police unions, Service Employees International Union, law enforcement unions donate a ton of money to the federal government, state and local government. They make a shitload of money off of these civil asset forfeitures, which helps them get bonuses, nicer cars, tickets to Super Bowls. Do you think that they're going to keep giving money to their favorite congressman or senator if they allow this legislation to give you back your freedom to pass? Give me a bunch of ones if you think that your congressman and senator supports you. Give me a bunch of twos if you think that your congressman and senator supports the money that they get from these scumbag government employee unions that have been slowly and quickly, in many cases, eroding your rights and freedoms as we the people. I want to hear it from you. I'm totally sick of this. This makes me sick to my stomach.
Vote. Bipartisan support, but
hard to do.
already some, that's right. There were 9 co-sponsors who were Democrats, 9 co-sponsors who were Republicans. Unfortunately, one has already died. Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston, Texas, passed away. She was one of the co-sponsors. That's how long this problem's been going on, that literally lawmakers trying to fix it aren't surviving to see it passed.
Wow. Yeah. Brenda, this is one heck of an update. And it's, oftentimes when
because they're playing kick the can, because they don't want it to pass, because the police unions are too powerful. They're just going to keep fighting it, and they'll come up with excuses. These civil asset forfeiture laws, in my opinion, are unconstitutional. And in fact, they closely resemble the bills of attainder and these other types of writs of attainder, and illegal asset seizures that led to the American Revolutionary War. And so what are they doing? Oh, we'll just stop doing it at airports and hopefully, the publicity will die down. That's what's really going on, guys.
we do these stories, we put them on TV, we put them on the web, and we wonder, all right, who's watching, who's paying attention? And this guy is one of them. And it's got to be a little validating, right?
Oh, it's absolutely validating. But also I realize he said to me, I would not have stood my ground had you not told me I could. Well, that's validating to hear, but also we caused him quite a bit of inconvenience because he said he would have assumed that they're entitled to look in the bag if we hadn't told him he could ask, am I free to go? What's really interesting is this exposed.
And the academic industrial complex teaches children, from the education system that we imported from Prussia to make our kids into lemmings and obedient to the state. They'll just do whatever the police tell them. They just assume, oh, they got a badge, they can do whatever they want. So think about that, guys. You literally are like marching to the sound of your own destruction. Reminds me of a Megadeth song, Dave Mustaine. I think he was an original guitarist with Metallica. Marching to the sound of your own destruction.
A huge hole in the government's argument. You may remember that we profiled a couple of people. One would be Clayton English, the other would be Eric Andre. They're comedians who were separately searched by the Clayton County Police on the jet bridge at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. They sued in federal court. Nothing was seized from them, but they sued basically saying that they were seized. Their person, were prevented from boarding their flight. The federal judge threw that case out, as many of these cases have been thrown out, on the grounds that dismissed the entire case on the grounds that these men were free to walk away. He said these were consensual searches.
Consensual
in one
encounters.
case, they gave consent. In the other one, the officers figured out who he was and let him go anyway. And the judge is saying they weren't really seized. They weren't really prevented from boarding their flight,
Yeah.
even though they were sort of blocked in the jet bridge. This blows a hole in that argument. It blows a hole in the DEA's argument. It blows a hole in the Justice Department argument that these are consensual searches because.
So you see the problem? You have judges who ignore the fact that the police are using fear and intimidation tactics to force you and make you think that it's not consensual. Think about that. You actually have judges on the bench right now who think that you knew that you were free to leave. Think about that, guys. I mean, some dude with a badge and a gun, he's got a dog sniffing your bag saying, hey, you need to get over here. I mean, come on, guys. Give me a break. This is just, what a joke.
If consent is the only choice, and even in David's case, it was his only choice because at the very end, they're like, okay, now we're going to go get a warrant and you're going to be here all day because it might take all day for us to get a warrant. There is Supreme Court case law that says you don't have to wait. You cannot, police cannot extend a stop in order to wait for a drug dog to get
Can't
there.
extend a stop.
Police
Sound like
cannot
Chili
extend a
DeCastro,
stop
right?
and prevent you from leaving while they go get a warrant. Preventing this guy from going about his travels, of course, they're going to argue he freely got off the plane. Important to point out, because we didn't say, we did on the air, but we didn't say just now, that the DEA has refused to even respond to our requests for an interview for over a year now. And then first they said no, and now
Right
they just
on, what's
stopped
the matter,
responding
you?
to us altogether.
Absolutely.
And the Montgomery police chief, on behalf of Agent Nimskern.
And now what's the matter, you says, SS, I'm sure your 5-year-old is capable of doing this better than any of the other presidents. Hey, man, I'm pretty sure anybody who's read the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence is capable of doing any of this stuff better than any of these cops, because they're police unions, all these government employee unions, they don't care about the Constitution. They care about getting pensions and pay raises at your expense. They could give a rat's ass about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Give me a bunch of ones if you think we should abolish the administrative state and the bureaucracy right now, today. Today, abolish it. Why do we need it? Look what happened to Twitter. Musk cut like 90% of the Twitter staff. It's more efficient and profitable than ever. Why do we have all these lemmings? Because they're guaranteed votes for a certain political party who receives the vast majority of government donations from government unions. I wonder what party that might be. It's certainly not the party that supports limited government. I'll tell you that right now. Let's keep going.
Because he's still a sworn officer there in that department, said, no, we're not going to be making a comment on this. So they wouldn't talk about it. They'll never talk about it. And it makes you wonder why they won't talk about it.
Wow. Brendan Keefe, Chief Investigative Reporter, Atlanta News First. Thank you. And to watch more of Brendan's reporting on this issue, go to our website. It's called In Plain Sight. It's a fantastic series you got to watch.
Is.
It's on our website, AtlantaNewsFirst.com.
I'm going to drop the link. Now, some of you guys who are joining me a little late, earlier today, I talked about the ancient common law of deodand, and that's where this all comes from. This comes from a British papal sort of religious decree that says that property can be seized if it caused the death of someone. And then that was later expanded into being, that if a merchant vessel was violating some kind of a tax law, that the government could seize the vessel. And that was based upon the fact that the captain might not always be present to serve him with the proper judicial process to take his vessel. But it's just, that was actually ended in the 1800s in England. There is no more deodand. There is no more civil asset forfeiture law in England, but we have it here. We have it here in this country, and it shouldn't be here. And so what is the government doing? Well, we know that Congress and Senate's not going to do anything because the police unions are too powerful, and they're going to keep on paying these congressmen and senators off to not do anything because there's too much money in it for all these local police agencies to steal your shit. And so it's not going to happen, guys. The only chance we have is the Supreme Court. And I don't see how the Supreme Court, most justices I know were prosecutors or maybe cops, for example. And I just, look, they're going to keep taking your money. Yeah, you can go to digital currency, but what does that do? Now they can shut down your bank accounts if you go against the government. And you have no way to have anything. So think about that. Think about what's happening to this country. We have less freedoms now than we did when we had our revolution. It's just become worse than England in many ways. Many people say. So I have one more video that I wanted to show you guys. It's not that long because I wanted you to understand your rights when you're at the airport and you have large amounts of cash on you. So you, just in case they start enforcing this stupid rule again that they've been enforcing, that they stopped enforcing because they got into too much trouble. Let's get into it.
Love Field, a check bag, a canine, and over $100,000 in cash. Add them up, and you got a conversation Dallas PD probably wasn't expecting.
We have many cases where they cannot prove that you did anything wrong with that money, but they take it.
State Representative Matt Schaefer is talking about civil asset forfeiture. It's what allowed this picture to even happen. The money belonged to a 25-year-old woman from Chicago who had a layover last week.
Absolutely, RC.
Her bag had nothing but the cash, some bubble wrap, and blankets inside. It's suspicious, but not enough to charge her with anything. Still, under Texas law, police can seize the money if they think it will eventually be involved in a crime. It happens all the time in the state, even in situations like this where no crime is actually happening. And it can involve property of all kinds, like guns or cars. To get it back, you have to hire an attorney and go to court.
A person does not even have to be charged with a crime in order for law enforcement to seize their property.
It's crazy.
By the way, cities can use seized cash to help with their budgets. Schaefer actually tried to pass civil asset forfeiture reform this previous legislative session, but it never made it to Governor Abbott. He wanted to make the burden of proof to seize property much more challenging.
And if they're going to take somebody's property away, they have to prove their case by clear and convincing evidence.
Speaker of the Texas House, Dade Phelan, even tweeted about this case, saying Schaefer should saddle up and try to pass reform again. Special detectives did do an investigation before taking the money, but DPD won't say what that entailed. $100,000 in a suitcase sure sounds fishy, but Schaefer says more hurdles should be in place.
Why? Why is that fishy?
Can just walk away with it. In Dallas, I'm Matt Howerton.
I mean, $100,000. Hold on a minute. $100,000 in a suitcase in 2024 would be like $20,000 in a suitcase in 1990. I mean, with inflation and the way our government has just jacked up our spending and destroyed the value of our currency, it's not that much money. And why on earth would you want to use digital currency when you saw what Trudeau did to the truckers up in Canada when they converted to digital currency? When those truckers didn't want to take those shots and they stood on their rights as free human beings, he shut down their bank accounts, made it impossible for them to feed their families or have a livelihood, just because they didn't want to go along with the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Think about that. So why wouldn't you want to have copious amounts of cash and gold and silver when you know the government could destroy your life if you don't go along with their friends at Big Pharma or Big Tech, right? Think about that. So just keep that in mind, guys. Now, I appreciate you guys supporting my channel. This has been it's been a pretty rough couple of weeks for me. I've been super buried. I doubt I'm going to be able to go live tomorrow. I appreciate the super chats, the likes and subscribes. Please make sure to always save my videos for later watching. I really, really appreciate all the support that people have been giving Team MPE. And I'm looking to try and expand into merch where I could get you like patriotic shirts, like something kind of like this, but with Thomas Jefferson, that says Team MPE, maybe like, some quotes or something from our founders. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon and have some cool merch for you guys. But the channel's been growing quite a bit. I started out about 5 or 6 months ago with like 3,000 subscribers, and we're already up to like almost 19,000 subscribers. So please share the channel, and please always, keep spreading the word about freedom and natural law and not so much about the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, but about natural law, about our rights that come from an all-powerful creator, and they cannot be taken away by government. Let's talk about limited government, getting rid of these police unions. There shouldn't be any such thing as a public employee union, period. Anybody who's living off the public dole should not have the power to unionize and influence the government to steal more of your money. If you've ever been to the DMV or any government agency, especially the post office, you can see the waste. You can see the disdain that they have for we the people, the way they treat us. These people should definitely not have any kind of power to form unions, because all it's doing is causing more civil asset forfeiture and more of this crazy stuff. We saw what Peter Strzok did. We saw what Lisa Page did. They have the power now with their control since Obama of the administrative agencies to literally decide elections, and they have enough power to get warrants and create false narratives like the Hunter Biden laptop false Russia story that was completely a lie that they made up, that all these CIA agents made up to help Sleepy Joe get elected. They say at least it was like 53% of voting Democrats said they would not have voted for Sleepy Joe had they known that the Hunter Biden laptop was real, because they were told by the government and by the press that it was a lie. It's all Russian disinformation. It was all made up. And now we know that was a lie. And that's probably why NBC and Communist News Network are going out of business now, because people are getting fed up with all the lies, thanks to Elon Musk, right? Like exposing all this stuff with the Twitter files. But look, Elon's probably no better. The problem is, like we've discussed in my other shows, anybody who gets power, they get drunk with it. So all I can tell you guys is we need to always try to find that sweet spot where we look after our wives, kids, and kin, and try to understand that we, the people, also can be victims of our own success. And so we all have to hold each other accountable. And when people get out of control, our brothers and our sisters, we need to always rebuke them. And a true brother or sister will handle the rebuke, and they'll accept it. They'll accept that a brother or sister is rebuking them and correct their ways, instead of trying to hold that person in contempt who is trying to prevent them from falling on their own sword and hurting themselves. So I appreciate it, Wasamata, you. And I really love all you guys. You guys have been super great. Let me really quick see if I can find I want to show you my ebook really quick, because you guys can support my channel by getting a copy of my ebook on PayPal. Hold on one second. All right, so this is the soft cover version of my ebook. It's called My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad. So this talks about my journey of how I became a lawyer on the California State Bar Law Office Study Program. But more than anything, it is a book that talks about how to stay motivated and how to push through your fear and make it happen. And so it's a motivational piece, and it also talks about other states that have similar programs. I mean, I'm of the mind that if you're not a lawyer, you're going to get screwed every time. Like every single one of you guys should be trying to get a law license, as far as I'm concerned. In today's day and age, it's such a legalistic society that it's almost impossible to get anywhere unless you're an attorney, as far as success. People who aren't lawyers are getting screwed left and right, even lawyers, because there's so many bad ones. But I happen to be an exceptional lawyer, and I make my money from the cases that I don't take. So remember that. You make your money from the cases that you don't take. And I will do everything that I can to help anybody on my channel who has legal issues, even if they're not in California or Texas, which is where I practice law, to know the law and mean to keep it well. If you have legal issues that I can't help you with, I'll do my best to try and help you find someone who can help you with your legal issue. And I'll also chastise you if you do stupid things that prevent you from having a valid case. I mean, there's a lot of cop watchers and auditors who go out and cause a lot of trouble and are extremely belligerent and unprofessional. And even though they're legally in the right to do that, they can't expect that they're going to go into court and win. And when I say win, yeah, I mean, at some point, if they get wrongfully convicted, they can probably win on appeal. But the idea is that judges and juries are people too. And if you come off like a dick, they will do everything they can to try and find a way to screw you. And that's just human nature. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm telling you, as a lawyer, the best thing that you can do is, like, if you've ever watched Long Island Audits, watch him and see how he is like really kind and courteous to people, in my opinion. And I think that's a better way to handle yourself, because that way you have a chance at getting a jury to want to award you money, right? So you can win, because winning means getting money. A lawyer like me, if I'm taking on a case and I have some guy trying to tell me how I have to run my case, who's never been a lawyer, who's never tried a case, tell me what I have to do, I will not help that person, because I already know I'm in trouble, right? Because once I sign on the dotted line, I've got some belligerent punk trying to tell me how to run my files. So I can't do that. So all I can tell you guys, if you really want to get into government accountability operations, you need to be courteous, considerate, and kind. You need to be respectful. And if you want to be belligerent, you want to be a jerk, you absolutely have the right to do that. And look, and I support your right to do that. But don't think that I'm going to go to court for you and advocate for you knowing that I'm going to lose. That's just not going to happen. And I don't know of any lawyer who will take a case like that. So you have to understand, yes, you can do it, but don't expect that you're going to win in court. So it's something that I want you guys to understand. Oh, no, I'm looking at BZ just popped in. No, I'm not making any specific references towards anyone. There's so many of them, but you guys have to be very, very careful with what you do when you're out there, because you're not going to be able to go into court in a civil case and expect some juror to give you money if you're cussing at people, swearing, and getting crazy on them, when that juror might have an uncle who's on the police force. They're people, so they're not going to go for it. So all I can do is tell you that I've got over 20 years experience as a lawyer and as a paralegal, and that sugar gets you more than salt. Now, for views and likes, yes, be belligerent, be crazy. You're going to probably get more followers, views, and subscribers. But if you're really wanting to make change in the court system and the judicial system, I think that an example like Long Island audits is a good example. I've got a few other ones that I'll point out to you guys next time I see you. Now, as far as BZ Watchdog goes, now as a lawyer, if I ever need somebody to help me do a public records request, somebody who really knows what they're doing as far as getting records and holding the government accountable, post office workers, that's the guy I'm going to go to for sure. So definitely make sure to like and subscribe to his channel and do all that stuff. If you need help that way. And look, guys, I'm not saying how to act, but what I am saying is if you want to go into court and win, you have to understand that jurors will not give you any money if you act in a way that they consider to be like a jerk. And unless you have a ton of money to be able to afford an appeal, you could be locked up for months while you're awaiting your appeal, because you could get some crackpot judge who just doesn't like your attitude, because they're expecting you to be obsequious and kiss their butt, right? That's just how they are if you try to represent yourself anyways. And the problem is a lot of these guys in the auditor community, they want to hire a lawyer and then tell their lawyer what to do. And so that's why we unfortunately haven't been able to help very many of them as far as direct representation. But yeah, man, anybody who needs legal advice or ideas to help them win, I'm totally down to try to help out. And yeah, I look forward to the day that we can have an educated jury and an educated judiciary that will not hold their personal biases against us when we go into court. Because I've had so many clients who have what do they call it? What's that disease where you cuss all the time? I had a guy like that who cussed every couple, he got arrested, got that case thrown out. But anyways, the bottom line is that a lot of people get falsely arrested and falsely convicted just because of their attitudes. And you can still win and get money if you just correct yourself a little bit. So just an idea. I'm trying to help you guys understand, because I want you guys to win, because I care about people and I don't want you to lose. Yeah, Tourette's. Yeah, Tourette syndrome. And then, Craig Hendry, another example, like a legit dude. Like I'd give the guy the shirt off my back. And honestly, a lot of his audits that I've seen, he's been pretty doggone cool. Like I haven't seen a whole lot of them where he gets too out of control. I've seen a couple where he does. And so what that does is that it builds too much passion and prejudice against him, to the point where he would literally have to get his case removed to another jurisdiction to win, because the whole jury pool is tainted. And so I'm just trying to help you guys understand that there's politics involved in this. It's not just black letter law. And don't hold it against me for just explaining the reality of the situation, because I want you to win. I mean, I'm not here for my health. I'm not making millions of dollars doing a YouTube channel. I see a lot of you guys who are just legit good people who are just getting hammered because you just don't know what you're doing. And I'm just telling you, like, you're talking to a guy who was arrested and beat up by a West Covina cop, which started me on my path to becoming a lawyer with no law degree. So you can laugh at me, you can make fun of me, you can tell me I'm a bad lawyer because I won't take your shit case, or you can try and take my advice and my lessons and my wisdom and use it to your advantage so you can win in the future. But that's up to you. Now, let me see here. Now, let me see here. What's the matter? You says, now that one, I think it's good to give most lawyers bullet points, lists of things you want done. That is true. Yeah, you're right. What's the matter? You should. But the problem is most excellent lawyers, and I consider myself to be in that category, when they're dictated to like that, we're going to say, have a nice day, find someone else. I'm just telling you. Now, if you have a strategic goal, like I want to win this case, and you throw me the ball, right, and you keep your mouth shut and let me do what I need to do, you're going to win your case. But if you cause stress, call me every 5 seconds, telling me how I need to run my case, I'm going to bundle up your case and send it back to you, because I have 20 or 30 other cases that I'm working on with clients who don't give me a lot of hassles, and I win their cases for them. So and that's why I say, if you guys want to like pretend like you're the best lawyer in the world, then get your law license. You can get a copy of my book, My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad. It's $19.99. You can go to my YouTube page. You can click on the description, and you can get a copy of my book, and you can learn how to become a lawyer, and you can do it yourself instead of trying to dictate to me and tell me how to run my life or litigate your case that's not even a good case, and then tell me that I'm no good because you have a shitty case. If you want to do that, that's up to you. Or you can become a lawyer and put your money where your mouth is. Now, let me see here. That's right. So Blue 5 says, give you lawyer a note. What do you need me to do to win my case? So that is actually more reasonable. Look, I'm just telling you guys, I'm only licensed to practice law in Texas and California, and I primarily do catastrophic injury cases. But I got my start doing criminal defense and appellate work, and I really do care about people, especially because of what happened to me and the journey that I went on, sleeping on park benches and doing whatever I had to do to become a lawyer. It was a religious experience, to say the least, to becoming a lawyer with no undergrad or anything like that. And so to earn that law license was a major achievement for a medically discharged Marine who thought he was going to spend his whole life in the Marine Corps. To get out, go through culture shock and all the stuff that I went through, to become a lawyer and have the successes that I've had. It's just been an amazing experience. So listen, guys, if you want to learn more, you can pick up a copy of my book, $19.99, My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad. I talk about the different states, like I think Alaska has a similar program to California. There's a couple other ones. Another way to support my channel is, with like super chats and super stickers, whatever you can. And then anybody who can help me come up with some merch, I'd love to get some cool Team MPE merch out there just to get the word out and to try to help people. Let me see here. Homeless in CA has been there and done that back in 95. I don't know who that is, Ryan Labs, but I'd love to check it out. When I did it, I was one of about 80 people who had done it since the California Constitution of 1849. So it was a really big deal for me to have done that. And I'm proud of myself for having done that without having to get brainwashed by the academic industrial complex with all their politicization. And Blue 5, yeah. In my book, I think I do talk a little bit about that. But yeah, so what I did is I was Rodney Dangerfield's limousine driver. I had a limousine company down in Carlsbad, and I sold my interest to my business partner, and I took the money that I had, and to save money and to try to find a lawyer to study under, I slept on park benches. I ended up ultimately getting a small little cubicle at the Yes Center in Venice Beach, which like these little cubicles, like it's hilarious. Like in Japan, where you sleep in these little cubicles and there's like a community restroom and all that. And whatever I could to save money. I had money in the bank, but I needed that money to survive. And I knew that if I was renting a house, I'd run out. So I ended up finally getting a law clerk job for a lawyer, and I worked for him for free as a personal injury attorney. And I got a job working full-time night shift at a Home Depot. So I'd work in the warehouse at night, and I would work for free in the daytime for several different lawyers for free as a law clerk, learning how to do litigation. And then I would sleep on park benches or at the Yes Center. And ultimately, once I learned litigation, I started making decent money. I think I got like 13 an hour, and then I got it up to 15. And then by the time I was done with the program, I was making about 15 grand a month as a paralegal / law clerk. So, but it all started with volunteering and being frugal and doing whatever I had to do to survive. So I have a totally different background than most of you guys who are lawyers, who had, parents who put you through school and all that. So it was really, really difficult to achieve that goal, to get where I got. And, I'm proud of myself for doing what I did, because I don't have any undergrad or any of that stuff. And I've had more successes than 99% of lawyers that you'll meet. I brought in over $200 million in verdicts and settlements for my clients since I've been in practice, and won millions and lost millions. But my love is always the people and my country. And so that's why I do these shows and try to help you guys understand the politics behind law in winning cases, not just what the law is and how you're going to sue and get all this money, but how you need to behave and how you need to act when you're dealing with law enforcement, because what's caught on film, what's caught on tape is going to go before a jury. And most of those people on that jury already don't like you. So if you give them an excuse, they might find in your favor and you'll win your case and end up with $1. And so that's what I don't want. I want you guys to win handily if you're going to be out there holding the government accountable. So, and thank you, Blue 5. I appreciate that. And Blue 5 says, when I see people sleeping on benches, I say, God bless you. Well, look, man, I'm probably an exception, like I'm one of these guys, like immediately every morning I'd be at the gym, taking a shower, working out, because so it was like, it's Venice Beach, like Santa Monica right there. So there was the Gold's Gym, there was a powerhouse. So I think I was a member of both. And so I would, get up at dark 30, grab my stuff. But, ultimately I got the Yes Center thing. And so that I had a place to stow my gear. But all I did is I had my sea bag from the Marine Corps, got rid of everything else, just had a sea bag with all my crap in it. And I would take the big blue bus to get to the law office and take a transition. I mean, whatever it took, right? Because that's what you got to do when you have a goal, especially because my Marine Corps background is it's do or die. So when I say that at the end of my show, I really mean that. When I say Semper Fi, do or die, I really mean it. Like, always be faithful to yourself, your country, and your Corps. And it's do or die. There's no try. It's do or die. You only have one life that God gives you. So you gotta take advantage of the energy that you have while you're young, because as you get older, you're going to have all kinds of problems with your health at some point. And so you got to get it under your belt quickly, get on the right nutrition program, get yourself in shape. Don't be lazy, square yourself away, because God only gives you one life, guys. So take care of yourselves. Let me see here. Oh, thanks. Life Under is supporting my channel. Thanks, Life Under. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah. So if you go to my YouTube main channel, you'll see my, you can click on the description and drop it down. There's the Reddit. There's the Twitter, all that stuff, add me as a friend, like and subscribe, do all that good stuff. Now, that's right. Greg B says, sort yourself out there, troop. Arrgh! He's got motivated right now. Hold on. I gotta give Greg B my Sir, yes, sir. Arrgh! And I even got my Punisher shirt on today, right? So anyways, man, I hope you guys liked my show today. I just love having you guys on here. And by the way, I saw the movie Gladiator over the weekend yesterday, and it was freaking amazing. So here's one of the things I'll share with you guys before I go. So when I was working at the Home Depot, and I was depressed, because you're talking to a guy. I had a limo company. Before that, I had a couple of health clubs. I helped start the LA Fitness Health Club in Anaheim Hills. I was #1 in sales at all the jobs that I ever worked at. But I always remembered reading in Psalms and Proverbs that, sometimes you have to suffer to succeed. That's what I got out of that. And so I just said, screw it, man. I want to be a lawyer, and I don't have the ability or the money to go to a 4-year college and then go to law school and all that. So I just bit the bullet, and that's exactly right. You just sort yourself out. Right on, Ryan Labs. My dad was a Marine too, and he just recently died from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma from Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. So pretty devastating experience. But yeah, so you just sort yourself out, you do or die, you make it happen. And that's the lesson in life. It was not an easy thing at all. You got to use that magic stick. What's the matter? You says you got to use that magic stick. Well, look, I'm not Asian, but I am still a white boy. So my magic sticks, it is above average, but it's not probably enough to where it could ever make me any money. Gosh, you guys are killing me. So let me see here. All right. So I think that's pretty much it. I think I'm done for the day. You're welcome, Kevin. You're welcome, Let's OTVO. And all you guys, it's good seeing you guys. And again, back on track, Gladiator. So when I was working at that Home Depot, I saw the movie Gladiator like in 2000 or whatever. And it just because I was really depressed because I was used to having a BMW or a Mercedes or, a cool car and all that. I didn't have a car, nothing. I was walking everywhere, looked good, was ripped. But you know how it is when you're used to having nice things and you don't anymore. And then I saw that movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe, and I'd walked all the way from where I was living several miles to get to the promenade to watch the movie there in Santa Monica, and totally changed my life. I mean, when I'm working at Home Depot by then, and I had Maximus written on my orange vest, strength and honor, and had swords crossed, because it was just trying to motivate myself. Instead of my name, Mike, it said Maximus. So people were calling me Maximus at the store. It's kind of hilarious, but I used that movie and what I learned from watching that to inspire me to continue moving along when I was depressed. And it was depressing, trust me, to not have a lot of nice things and to be basically living in an area with a bunch of vagrants, especially with my background, because I have a really high IQ and I'm not a vagrant. And it's difficult to deal with people that aren't that intelligent when you have a processing speed that's like a supercomputer, right? So that was a real problem. And that movie really helped me. And so last night I saw the Gladiator movie, which is Lucius, his son, and he ends up being a gladiator. And man, it was just so inspiring. So it was almost like my whole life came full circle last night watching that movie. So any of you guys who have seen the Gladiator movie, I recommend that you see the Gladiator Part 2. Yes, I did see the new Gladiator movie, Blue 5, and it is just so good, man. Such a great movie, super, super inspiring. So I highly recommend that you see that movie and that you get out there and make it happen. Whatever you guys have goals, don't use your race or skin color, the fact that you're too short or you're too heavy or whatever you got going on as an excuse to hold you back. Just go out there and do it, and get a copy of my book. Look at what I did. I mean, if I could do it, you could do it too. You could do it too. And even if you don't want to read my book, get a copy of it for a friend or a family member. It's a digital ebook, and it's super inspiring, because it talks about like all the stuff that I went through in order to get where I am today. And look, I'm still not rolling anymore like I was. I mean, you have your ups and downs, but at least I still am a lawyer, and I achieved that goal, and I was able to have a family, and I have the joy of having children who are homeschooled, got them away from the educational industrial complex, right? The academic, communist, Marxist industrial complex. And my kids are learning about patriotism, the logical fallacies of the government and the communist run news media. They're learning how to love their founding fathers and the ideas of freedom and liberty and all those things that were normal when I was growing up, right? But now they just teach like this Marxist dogma in the public schools. So yeah. So let me see here. Yeah, Rhine Labs old timer, right? That's right. So Rhine Labs, I'm super happy to see you on my channel. If you guys don't have any questions for me, I think I'm going to call it a night. But go see Gladiator if you get a chance. What a freaking amazing! Go see the first one first, and then go see the one at the theater. And if you see it at the theater, see it like on the big screen, like 4D or whatever. Like really see it with the good 3D or whatever they got right now. But man, it's amazing. And now Rhine Lab says, do what you have to do. Never be sorry for what you have to do. Just be wary of the consequences. That's right. I think there's a verse in the Bible that says, go and pursue the desires of your heart. Do that, but just understand that there will be consequences to pay. And I think that's what the Amish, they have the Raumspringa. Like they say, hey, go out and experience life, but just remember, if you stay out there, be wary that we're not going to accept you back. So it's pretty harsh, but there's hardly any. I don't think there is any cases of autism in the Amish community, and they're all really healthy, and it all coincides with them refusing to take those forced things that they tried to make us take, and they kick people out of the military for not doing. So something to think about, their non-compliance does have its health benefits. Let's put it that way. So let me see here. That's right. Cops are 5150. Public schools are just propaganda. And love seeing you. Good seeing you, BZ. Good seeing you, Letso TVO. Yeah, man. I hope you guys are having a good Sunday. Seeing Gladiator last night was just so awesome. I'm still like filled with adrenaline from what I got my son to see it with my wife and kids. And I had my buddy who is a professional craftsman build my son a real Roman gladius. And I had him build my son a Roman helmet. And on my wife's side, she's part Italian. So he's real jazzed about having some Roman blood in him. And teaching him about his heritage, being Salvadorian, Swedish, and Roman. So he's got the Viking blood, and he's got the Roman thing going for him. Good looking kid. He's been in judo for almost 2 years now. Taking that tradition from me, being a judoka and a street fighter. Hopefully he won't be a street fighter, but for me, I didn't have much of a choice. But for him, he does. He's learning the honor and tradition of traditional Japanese samurai and the code of the samurai and all that stuff. So homeschooling has its benefits, guys. Definitely does. So anyways, thanks I don't want to digress too much. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Hey, you know what? I was an orange belt too, kinetic. So in fact, I dropped doing traditional Japanese dojo training after my orange and got into street fighting and Muay Thai. But I incorporated grappling into my Muay Thai in judo. And then years later, I saw the UFC come out in like the 90s. And I was like, dude, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's like Jeet Kune Do. I really got into Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do. And so I started doing BJJ and I just never really got into the whole belt system. It's just not my thing. I train with other martial artists and street fighters, and that's how I got good. And rolling on the mats whenever I could. But because I've been an entrepreneur and always working, it's really, really hard to have that strict routine. But my son does have it because I was able to give him a good mom and a good home. thank God, where we have him in a traditional dojo with an excellent black belt, and most of the judokas in the dojo are black belts. So my son, who's 16 years old, trains pretty much with just black belts. So imagine my joy as a father to see him like rolling with dudes who are legit. I mean, he's not training with white belts or yellows. There's a couple of browns, I think one green, and the rest are all black belts. So give me a bunch of ones for my son. Judo is totally underestimated kinetic customs, and BJJ is basically just judo. That's all Brazilian jiu-jitsu is, except it doesn't have takedowns. And judo's got the takedowns. It's a more complete martial art. All BJJ is newaza, which is the Japanese word for ground fighting. So I think that judo is a superior martial art, because every fight I've ever gotten into involves a couple of kicks, a couple of punches, and then you're grabbing each other. So a judoka, as soon as he grabs you, you're going to get thrown on the ground. And if you're a big guy, you're not getting back up. You're going to break a rib. You're going to get your skull fractured. You're not getting back up. Now, the only issue is if you come up against a good striker, like a good boxer, that's why I say you need to also take Muay Thai. You need to learn how to do stave off distances and how to shoot. So that's why I got more into street fighting, because it was more complete for me and what I was going through every day at school, getting picked on as a short guy. But for my son, he doesn't have that. He's tall, good looking, and all I want for him is to learn the honor and art and traditions of Japanese martial arts. And judo has that samurai spirit more than any of them. And it's a more practical art. And it's also in the Olympics. So if he's good enough, who knows, he could get a scholarship if he wanted to and travel the world. So anyways, but you're right. The Gracies, life under the microscope, the Gracies made UFC and the fix was in for Hoist for the win. Yeah, that's true. And I honestly think that if there was a good judo guy, that they would have cleaned the floor with the Gracies. But that's just not how it worked out. And the rules were in his favor. And good for him, because I think that BJJ is awesome. I mean, I still do BJJ, but I know that it's judo. It's newaza. Now, BJJ has evolved with some different techniques, and they're so good at ground fighting that, yeah, I would say that if you take a typical judoka against a highly trained BJJ guy and they're just doing mat work, that the BJJ guys got the advantage. I mean, I know I have the advantage from my Gracie training on most judokas on the ground. Absolutely. But I also know that 99% of fights don't start on the mat like BJJ. They start standing up. So I'm looking forward to being able to throw that guy on the ground where he's completely caught off guard and being able to use my newaza on him before he can even recover and still get my arm lock or a choke or whatever I need to do to win. But I also think that judo lacks the striking. Now, although there is striking in traditional judo, it's not used in the competitions. And so that's why I sort of strayed away from the traditional fighting techniques and went more into street fighting. And then, of course, the original UFC, I just was like mesmerized because like, wow. And I actually used to see Tank Abbott in Huntington Beach where I used to surf. So I remember all those dudes. Like they were the original dudes, man. Those guys were legit. So yeah, man. And then being a jarhead too, you just want to be a fighter. It's just part of who you are, right, guys? And yeah, that's right. Life Under says hands, feet, wrestling. And I know that Life Under is like 6'5" or something. So I got to tell you guys, people say, oh yeah, like a little guy, you can kick ass or whatever. I'm gonna be honest with you. A little guy like me going up against a 6'5" guy, I would rather run no matter how well trained I am. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and brag and say, I know all this stuff. I'm going for my Glock 21. I'm not going to sit there and try to duke it out with some dude that's built like Andre the Giant. Doesn't matter how well trained you are as a martial artist. A size advantage is there. That's why I laugh when I hear people talk about, oh, women can be cops. Women can be in combat. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Okay. I don't know of any woman who could drag a 200-pound dude. Even me with being a bodybuilder, would have a hard time dragging a 200-pound dude out of a fighting position. I don't know of many women who can do more than 3 or 4 push-ups, even if they've trained for months at a time, because genetically, they're not designed to be able to do that. Genetically, I'm designed to protect her. At least that's common sense. That's how it's always been. It's always been for thousands of years. And for some academic to come along now and say, oh, you're being a bigot or a homophobe, or what do they call it? I don't even want to get into it. It's so stupid. But it's just common sense. All right. Now, that's one thing, Life Under. Out of everybody that I've ever fought, wrestlers are without question the most dangerous opponent you will ever face. I'm telling you that as someone with a lot of training and experience. Wrestlers are bad news, and you want to stay as far away from those dudes as possible. I have nothing but respect for wrestlers, and they are just the vicious takedowns of wrestling and their conditioning. There's nothing comparable except maybe a professional boxer. So yeah, if you've got boys and you don't have a dojo that has judo or whatever, wrestling's the way to go. The issue I have with wrestling is that I still think that judo is a more complete art because of the Japanese style samurai discipline. And that's what I'm trying to get with my son. You know, you bow at the mats, all that stuff. To me, that's super important. But anyways, we're talking about martial arts, and they're blocking a lot of chats. That's crazy, huh? Are they blocking your chats? What's the matter, you? Because we're talking about martial arts. I believe it, man. But let me see here. Michael, you're not an ambulance rider. Well, I am a personal injury attorney, so I've made most of my money doing car accidents and motorcycle accidents, but primarily military veterans who have been severely injured. And so personal injury attorneys have a reputation for being ambulance chasers, but I've never chased an ambulance, and I've got a really well-rounded experience as an appellate lawyer as well. So I didn't just do PI law. It just happens to be that I'm really good at it. And I'm really good at intimidating defense attorneys into paying my clients what they deserve. So that's the only reason. And a lot of it has to do with my discipline, guys. I mean, I'm up every morning. I do some kind of PT, and I stay after the task. And that's all it is, guys. You just got to get up and make it happen. You can do the same thing. You could also pick up a copy of my book about my journey to becoming a practicing lawyer with no law degree or undergrad for $19.99 by going to my YouTube page and learn about how I did it, because you may find that even if it's not something you want to do, that you could be inspired by what I did. So you might try to achieve great things too, because that's what I want for all of you, is for you to achieve great things. Regardless of what you do in life, do it to your utmost, and go see the movie Gladiator Part 1 and Part 2. So they deleted stuff. That's crazy. Yeah. So if anybody wants to help me build out a, what do they call it? A Rumble page or Patreon, I'm down. I just need some help, guys. I'm doing all this by myself. So if you think that we would get more luck, because I hate it that people are getting their comments blocked or whatever. And then I have people telling me that they think that I'm doing, oh, you blocked my comments, you're censoring me. And it's like, no, dude, I'm not. I have moderators for that, number one. And most of my moderators only block scumbags who come in here to cause trouble. And my moderators don't block each other. And as you can see, almost everybody in my chat is pretty much a moderator. Ryan Labs, you stick around long enough, you'll be one too. Same with you, Blue 5. Kevin Biernarsky, I don't know why you're not moderator. Hold on a minute. Let me find you over here. Is Kevin Biernarsky still in the chat? Because he's been coming here forever, man. I'm trying to find one of his comments. Just give me a second, guys. Hopefully I can find him in here. If not, he's going to have to come in next time. But I think that Kevin has earned his wrench. What do you guys think? Give me a bunch of ones if you think that Kevin's earned his wrench, and I'll throw him in there. Let me see. Trying to find you, buddy. Trying to find you. Well, SW Observer, you just got yourself a wrench too. Swedish Observer, I'm a Swede myself, and Swedish Observer is awesome. By the way, Swedish Observer, I did restore my phone account. I got a new phone, but I did restore my Signal account. Reach out to me on Signal, brother, anytime. Got your back. And then Kevin Brunarski, if I can find you on here, I'll add you as a moderator as well. Life Under, give him a bunch of ones. He's one of our new mods. Kevin, here you are, brother. Kevin Brunarski, give Kevin a bunch of ones. We got a new moderator. Kevin's got his wrench. Remember, guys, with great power comes great responsibility. Anybody with a wrench, we don't time out fellow moderators with wrenches. That wrench is basically a signal to the other mods to know, don't block this guy's comments. He's a loyal member of Team MPE. So that's all that's about. I know it's not that big of a deal, but at least it shows you guys that I appreciate your devotion and dedication to listening to me talk about nonsense for 2 hours sometimes. But thanks again for supporting the show. Make sure to always like and subscribe to BZ Watchdog's channel as well. And if you guys have any issues or questions about public records requests, he's the guy you want to go to for help. And he's got some really great videos where he held the government accountable, especially at post offices. So check those out. You're welcome, Kevin. You're the man. And then Rhine Labs, once we get you in here a little bit more, once we get you in here a couple more shows, we'll go ahead and get you a wrench as well. You seem like a legit dude. I have to be real careful because some of my mods, they had to wait months to get their wrenches. This is kind of like a motorcycle club, like in order to get your full patch, you gotta get your bottom rocker going or whatever rocker it is that you wear first, and then we move to the next level. So right now you got your vest, and pretty soon you'll get your full rocker patch, whatever it is. And I appreciate all you guys coming in and supporting the channel. So yeah. Now Kinetic Customs, yes. Now that's true. Okay, so guys, be very careful. Chili got his channel hacked the other night, and we're not quite sure how. It could have been through one of the streaming programs that he uses. It could have been through YouTube. Nobody really knows. But just be careful with your passwords. Don't share them with other people because that's the primary way people do it. But there are also some of these streaming programs that have holes in them. So just be careful because he could have easily lost his channel, and he has almost 1 million subscribers. It would have been devastating for him to lose that channel. And another reason why we should be looking at Patreon and Rumble as well, guys, because YouTube has just become like the thought police on steroids. So anyways, guys, I'm going to get going. Guys. Make sure to wait, hold on a minute. Yeah, and make sure to go to before I go really fast, I'm going to just share with you guys really, really quick how to find my other stuffs, as the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor would say, your stuffs, Mang. That's my YouTube channel. All you have to do is just click where it says more right here. I'll try to blow this up for you a little bit more. So right here, Michael Ehline, go right here where it says more and scroll down. You can check out my personal blog, the law firm that I work for. If you have a personal injury case, you can pick up a copy of my book for $19.99. And you can also go to my Reddit page. Look, if you're a cop watcher or a police auditor and you have videos you want me to share, I have a pretty decent Reddit page where I have police audit attorney reaction video pages where I can share your stuff. Then I got my X page, got almost 14,000 followers over there. I can share your stuff there. Then communist Instagram, I rarely use it because I hate Meta. I think that Zuckerberg should be in prison for treason, but I do have that there just for you people who are dumb enough to still use anything that like Facebook or Meta, even though that their company, in my opinion, are traitors to the United States of America. And then Kinetic Custom says, I just did a First Amendment audit last week. Well, share me the video, dude. Shoot it over to me over at Reddit or on my Twitter page, and I'll share it, man. Try to help you get some traction. I'm all about helping my brothers and sisters. We're all God's children, and we have to look after one another. And we also have to rebuke one another when we do stupid shit. And with that being said, guys, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. And you know that they want to. You saw the way they were editing all of your comments when we were talking about Brazilian jiu-jitsu and judo and street fighting. So we know that could happen. And I really do appreciate all you guys. And I found, I guess, a couple of you guys were Marines as well. That kind of motivates me to know I still got a couple Marine brothers on here. And anyways, yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. Semper Fi, do or die.